Alright guys, what's going on? Got some primer on all of the miscellaneous truck parts that are not currently attached. This is SPI Turbo 2K. First time running it. I got 3 coats on everything. We'll see how it goes. Supposedly, and I only say supposedly because I've never used it, half an hour to sand on this primer. I won't try it. I'll leave my parts set probably 2 or 3 days. But the big thing was it has, I guess, a fast shrink up so that all the major shrinking happens early. It's still going to shrink up some. It's primer, you know. But at any rate, got 3 coats of that on there. With this gem here, this ATD Leonardo whatever 1.8 tip. If you want to know what it's like to paint in my shop, just close your eyes and try and paint, because it's about how dark it is in here. These parts, after I put the second coat of primer on them, I really thought seriously about not putting a third coat, and then I thought, well, you know what, I'm going to go ahead and do it. My first coat was flashing off almost. I didn't have dry spray, but it flashed off by the time I got to the bottom of this door from spraying the top. The top was already dry. Now you can argue it's pretty hot up here. Use slow reducer in it, 4 to 1 to 1 with that. But there's 3 coats there. The upper inside part of the doors is only 2 coats. The only reason I put 2 coats of primer on the upper part of these doors is because the weather strips had rubbed through to bare metal on this, and I had epoxied the doors 1 coat on this inside where it was just the minor rub-throughs. I'm going to say it again, as I've said before, I'm scared of this paint. I feel this truck should have been stripped, but we're going to let this primer set for a while before I even consider sanding and opening it up and then trying to put base coat on it. The original urethane factory paint was just what I would call dead. If you've ever seen a car with clear coat, like say on a hood where it's peeling up, this stuff didn't look like it was peeling, but it was that dry. I mean, there was no gloss to it. I don't think you could have put a gloss on it if you wanted to. You would have used a heavy cut compound and probably buffed the paint off the truck. So this just got spot primed, a little bit of epoxy on some rub throughs. You can see where I rubbed my glove on it here. There's, from painting over here, this is in the line of the fan to draft all the overspray out. It's got overspray all over it. It doesn't matter, it's all getting sanded. 3 coats on these, stone, guard, and the cowl. I think they're gonna do good. One thing I did have to do, and I can't remember which fender it was. I think it's not this one. This is the driver's side fender. These really looked good. I did have some dust in them. Obviously, I didn't sweep the floor. I got too much going on here. I went over these with a little bit of 320 on one of those soft foam sponges just to knock the dust nibs off of it. Now, it didn't look like I dumped sand on it, nothing like that. Just, I wanted to make sure when I 2K primed over it, I didn't miss anything. Let's put it that way. This is the passenger fender, and every one of these aftermarket fenders I've ever seen, right where this body line is, where it meets the door, it's always got a crease in it right here from where they fold that corner and hem it around the back. There's filler in it right here, but as you remember, every one of these pieces that are primed today, except for the hood, were completely bare steel. I still have to put epoxy on the back of this, not because I'm trying to protect it, but that's what I'm using as a sealer on the back. I'm going to set all this stuff outside tomorrow and let it set in the sun. But yeah, all this stuff, I think it turned out really good. Inside door bottoms, you remember, let's see, this is the passenger one. It's hard to tell. Now, I didn't fill every rust pit in these, but I did blast it out and grind it out. They're clean. Notice there's no seam sealer in the bottom of this door. Right before paint, I will take a red Scotch-Brite in there, after the rest of the door sanded, of course, and seam seal that gap. just to cover that up. So if anything does come down through the door, it's supposed to come out these holes anyway, but we all know what happens. It all gets in between the panels, so we'll oil it up and hope for the best. But everything came out pretty good. Again, I think, let's see, no, that was the passenger door. The one I was showing you is the driver's door. This one had gotten a bunch of that Herculine or bed liner all over it here because it had a rusty spot where the water had laid on it, and I had to grind it out. I mean, these doors were, for the inside of a door, they were a wreck, and I don't know why. You also remember, this is where the rubber grommet comes out for the speaker. This truck does not have power windows or locks, so it's just for the speaker. And I had taken wax and grease remover and just the paint came off, because when these trucks are painted, the doors are open and whatever paint blows in there is what it gets. Now there's still factory sealer on it, and that's fine, but the other thing I did, you notice I got the hinges off. Now don't get scared, these should line right back up, because I took an 1/8 inch drill bit, and I forgot to video this, and with the hinge on, I drilled through the hinge right into the door, top and bottom. I have an 1/8 inch punch that fits tight in that hole. You can align them up. I will do that before this door gets paint, because I don't want to be sliding them on fresh paint. That's just a little trick for doing those. But the other thing I ran across, and I don't think you're going to see any of it, it's just too damn dark in here, but we stripped these doors completely, bare metal, all the way down from this body line, all the way down to the bottom. There were a bunch of stone chips still in here that weren't all rusted up. There were a couple gouges up here that had rust in them. I epoxied the doors first and just took a razor blade and put a little wipe in them, and then took a piece of 320 and knocked it down till all you saw was the little dot from the chip with filler in it. It's not the best way to do it, but jobs like this, it's not supposed to be a restoration, but I go crazy and make sure there's not a bunch of stone chips and crap all over them, because if somebody's paying good money for this, I don't want them to look at it and say, well, couldn't you have done that? I mean, these are little things. I mean, the right thing to do is strip all the paint off of it, or feather edge them back, but when I probably filled 10 little chips on this door and maybe 15 on the other one. I mean, it sounds like a lot, but hell, if we would have filled all the chips that were in it here all the way down to the bottom, you know, it's just too much. So that's what's happening right now. I'll get this one up for you guys, and if you like what's going on here, I know these are kind of updates, give me a thumbs up, subscribe, and we'll catch you on the next one.